In this video, we will be talking about the move for h4 in the advanced variation. In the previous video, we analyzed the moves bishop e3, knight d2, and g4 on move 4. This time, we will have a look at the very serious attempt for h4. h4 is a very serious move and you need to be well prepared for it. Otherwise, white can get some advantage. h4 is an ambitious move. Black has two options to play against it. He can play either h5 or h6. I recommend the move h5. White has three options here: c4, bishop d3, and bishop g5. c4 is the critical test, and there will be quite some variations that you need to remember. Bishop d3 is not so critical and doesn't pose that many problems. Bishop g5 is a tricky move that can lead to very big problems if you don't know what to do. If you know what to do, you will get a slight advantage. Let's start with bishop d3. We take e6, bishop g5, queen b6. White has two moves here: knight to d2 or knight to f3. After knight to d2, c5 would be completely fine for black, but my main recommendation is queen a6. c4, bishop b4, b3, knight e7, we simply develop our pieces, knight f3, knight f5, castle, castle, rook fc1, knight to d7, and here white has two moves, either knight f1 or a3. After knight f1, we play bishop a3, hitting the rook, rook c2, and now we create immediate counterplay with c5. Black is completely fine, and things can go wrong immediately. For example, knight e3 would be a very bad move in view of knight takes d4, when after knight takes d4, knight takes e5, black is already winning. Now the queen is attacked, and if the queen goes away, we simply take on d4, and it's, about over already. Hence why the move a3 deserves attention. Bishop takes d2, queen takes, rook c8, a4, and rook fe8. Yeah, this is a bit of a mysterious rook move, but it is quite strong. The idea is to keep an eye on the e5 pawn and to push c5. c5 immediately would be a bit problematic because white can take on d5, takes, and take on c5, and now knight takes c5, queen takes d5 would simply lose a pawn. Knight f3 is the other move instead of knight d2. After knight f3, we take on b2, castle, queen takes a1, queen b3, b5, knight d2, take f1, king takes, and a6. And in this position black has two rooks and a pawn for the queen and is all ready for choice. White has no equality here. Let's talk about the move bishop g5. We play queen b6, and now bishop d3. This is the point of white's previous move. If white plays something else, black is fine, basically no matter what. So bishop d3 is the only serious move in this position, and there are many tactical ideas. For example, bishop takes d3 is very risky. After queen takes b2, there is e6, and white has a strong initiative. Also, queen takes b2 is very risky on account of bishop takes f5, queen a1, and once again e6 with a strong attack. The move I recommend in this position is queen takes d4. Queen takes d4 is based on the idea bishop takes f5, queen takes e5 when we win our piece back. So bishop takes f5 makes no sense, knight f3 is the move, and once again we will not take on b2. After bishop f5, queen a1, e6, fe6, there's bishop g6 check, and white once again has a very strong attack. You will find a much more detailed analysis in the ebook, so please check this out if you want further information. After knight f3, we play queen g4. We simply protect our bishop. White has two moves, castle or bishop takes f5. After bishop takes f5, we take it back, castle, and here a very strong move, f6. If black plays something else, white actually does have some sort of compensation, but after f6, black is better. Bishop d2. Now knight d7 is very playable, but f takes e is the most principal option. c4, e6, queen b3, b6, takes, knight takes e5, bishop d6, knight f3, knight d7, bishop g5, and castle. Black is still a pawn up. He managed to complete his development, and white has no sufficient compensation for the missing pawn. Castle is much more natural. We take on d3, c takes, e6, queen b3, queen b4, queen c2, knight e7, knight c3, knight d7, knight e2, and black is slightly better, I would say. I don't give black a full pawn advantage because white does have some sort of compensation, but it does not weigh the pawn he's missing. So it is not full compensation for one pawn. So black should be slightly better. The most dangerous move on move 5 is c4. White attacks in the center right away. e6, knight c3, knight e7, and white has two moves, knight ge2 or bishop g5. After bishop g5, we play queen b6, queen d2, knight d7, and white once again has two moves, knight f3 or knight ge2. After knight ge2, we can actually take on c4. Knight g3, and f6 is a very interesting move. If white takes on f6, g takes, bishop e3, queen a6. We defend our pawn, and it is not clear how white wants to get this pawn back. For example, bishop e2, long castle, short castle, knight b6, once again defending the pawn, knight ce4, takes, and knight f5. This knight is very strong. The other knight can come to d5, perhaps, and black already has a slight advantage. If white takes on f5 on move 11, we take it back with the knight, e takes f, g takes f, bishop e3, queen a6. Once again, we hold on to the pawn, we prepare knight b6 and long castle. The knight on f5 is very strong, and black has the upper hand. If white plays knight f3, we play f6, e takes f, g takes f, bishop e3, and rook g8. Our rook is very nicely placed on the g-file. We will follow up with a long castle, and the plan is to push e5. We can also keep c5 as an option in mind, but most likely e5 will play in the center. Black has a very elastic position and a lot of options. White is fine for now, but I really like black's position. The main move instead of bishop g5 is knight ge2. We play knight d7, knight g3, bishop g6. White has two options, c takes d5 or bishop g5. Bishop g5 leads to a very complex position. After queen b6, queen d2, takes, and castle. The immediate threat is knight takes e5, and white must keep all his pawns protected. The queen is threatening b2 and threatening d4. White needs to find an answer to knight takes e5. The position is very complex, but I like black's chances. White also has his chances. The position is very unclear. But it is a very rich position. You can definitely play for a win. If white takes on d5 instead, we take it with a knight, bishop e2, queen a5, bishop d2, and there is no threat. We can castle. White takes on h5 with a knight, and we go queen b6. Queen b6 is based on a very nice idea. If white takes on d5, we will sacrifice the piece and take on d4. Knight c3 and bishop c5, threatening mate in 1. Bishop e3 is no option. After queen takes d1, rook takes, we can take on h5, and black is already better here. e5 is weak, h4 is weak. This does not work. White plays rook f1. Now we take on h5, bishop takes h5, and here goes the first pawn. Knight takes e5. White retreats his bishop, and here goes the second pawn. Queen takes h4. And it is obvious that black has fantastic compensation for the piece. He has two pawns and a very strong attack. White has two moves, queen c2 or queen b3. After queen c2, we take on f2, rook takes, queen g3, bishop f1, rook h1. And even though black is two pieces down at the moment, the position is completely fine. I think there is a forced draw somewhere. You can check it out in the ebook. Black has a very nice position. If queen b3, we take on f2, rook takes, queen g3, and this position is even already much better for black. Queen b3 is less accurate than queen c2, and I think black has even an objective advantage here. And yeah, very strong pressure. So what you need to know is that h4 is very serious. You must not underestimate this move. After bishop g5 on move 5, you need to do your homework. Don't take on b2, it is very risky. That's what you need to remember. Queen takes d4 is the correct move, and then queen g4, and you will find your way somewhere. Bishop d3 on move 5 is no problem for black.